The keynote this afternoon is about sourcing tools, automation, and mobile apps. In this session, Mr. Steckerl will reveal how you can leverage dozens of free and inexpensive productivity tools from database, spidering to social automation, with a special preview of hottest mobile apps that makes a difference in Sourcer's day. Please put your hands together to welcome Shally.
The request that I have is if you're going to take a nap, just try not to snore so that you don't interrupt the session. I want to warn you, this thing's not working, by the way. I don't know if you know that. The timer thing. Oh, you're fixing it. Okay. I want to warn you, this is probably one of the more tactical, in the weeds kind of. This session is very much about the tools that sorcerers use. So if you are not interested in that, this would be a good time to return some phone calls and check your email and things like that. But I wanted to go pretty deep and show you some of the technology that's out there so you get an idea as to what sourcing has to offer. So we have tools, automation, and mobile apps. The intent here is I'm going to cover as much ground as I possibly can. Many of these are just going to be suggestions. If you have interest in any one of these and you want to find out more, you can shoot me an email, let me know, and we can go deeper. But I literally could do probably a 1-hour presentation on each one of these apps. So just to give you an idea, this is like a global overview of the technology that's out there, not designed to be an in-depth session, but it is very tactical. So what kind of tools are available to the sourcer? You have software that's specialized in resume search. These are applications that log into password-protected websites like Monster and Career Builder and Dice and LinkedIn, and they apply your search to those databases, and they bring back the results and collate them into a folder or some other way. There's a number of these tools out there. They're called resume spiders or power browsers. They go by different names. Then we have productivity tools. These are things that allow you to be more efficient. So they're about using your time more wisely. What is that? Did I do that? Okay, I get the yellow and ochre scene thing, but this is like going too far. Is that me? Did I do that? No? Okay. So then there's email and inbox management. Why is that not considered productivity tools? It sort of can be. Email management and inbox management can be about productivity, but it's also about engagement. So it may not necessarily be a more efficient way to manage your email. That could be a productivity tool. But it could be a way to be able to create conversations in an automated fashion, autoresponders, for example. So that may not be about efficiency. Then there's databases and database search tools, macros and scripts, mobile apps. There are job distribution services that will post your jobs to a variety of places. And then there's, of course, a whole slew of social media automation that is available. The first thing that I wanted to share with you is my favorite browser. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Opera browser. Okay? Raise your hand or keep your hand up if you currently use it. Okay? Why did you abandon it? Just curious. Huh? It's faster than Chrome. Okay. Anybody else? What applications? Sorry. Oh, that's interesting. Opera can mask as any browser. So you can go in there and tell it to pretend to be Explorer or Firefox or whatever. So whatever website it goes to, it doesn't know. That's interesting. Anyway, it's interesting to find. I know a lot of people have heard of it, but a lot of people don't use it. Let me tell you a couple of reasons why you should use Opera. First of all, it is extremely customizable. This is a browser that allows you to pretty much set everything up the way that you want it, all the way from the sites that you visit most frequently to the layout and design of the tabs. You can set it up to configure, for example, on a vertical screen. And there's a lot of customization within the browser itself. For example, you can create custom searches inside of the URL box. So you could literally type in a command like ABC, and it'll do a specific kind of search. It's like a macro, right? No other browser offers that. Also, Opera is one of the only ones that I've seen successfully recover from a complete blue screen crash. Meaning you're in the middle of doing, let me know if this has ever happened to you. You've got 12 windows open. So far, so good, right? And you click on something, and all of a sudden, blue screen. Never happened to you? Right? It's the only browser I've ever seen actually come back to all 12 windows on the restart in any operating system. So to me, that's a huge time saver, because oftentimes I've got 12 things open that are all related to that one same search. You can also eliminate all images or only images that are hyperlinked or only images that you haven't downloaded before, which makes it very fast. And because you can use it on an iPad or an iPhone, a tablet device or anything like that, and it's all synchronized, your history and your favorites are all synchronized, it remembers that. So if it's an image that you've already previously blocked, ads for example, it makes your mobile browsing a lot faster, especially with some of you, raise your hand if you have 2G. You're not going to admit it, are you? How many of you have 2G connections on your mobile phone? Yeah, you definitely need something like this, because it can be pretty dauntingly slow on a 2G connection, especially when you're downloading images. And a lot of websites today are very image intensive, so it's a good way to get around that. The note-taking ability, Control-Shift-C, allows you to copy a page, for example, a resume or a LinkedIn profile, into a notebook. So you don't have to copy, Control-C, Control-V, all that other stuff. You just use Control-Shift-C, and it puts it into a notebook and tags it. It's kind of like automating the documentation process. By the way, it also works with search results. You follow? When you have a whole list of search results, and you do Control-Shift-C, it brings all of those search results into your notebook. There's also the synchronization I told you about. It's got a built-in email client and an RSS reader that are very robust and editable toolbars. But one of the things I like the best about it is the command line interface. You can actually program the browser at the command line to do just about anything you wanted to do. They were the first ones to do, for example, voice commands, mouse gestures. For those of you that might have Macs, you know how the Magic Trackpad has those up and down gestures and side to side. So if you don't have a Mac, if you have a PC, there's no equivalent for that. There are mouse gestures in Opera that allow you to do things like minimize, maximize. Plus, it's got built-in voice commands like clicking on hyperlinks and things like that. So these are things that make you operate faster. Keyboard macros and shortcuts inside of the browser allow you to open any app, but then there's also macro tools that do that anyway, so that's not unique to Opera. But I would say my favorite thing of all time is the ability to turn anything that has a search box into a custom search engine. So when you're using Opera, if you land on a website that has a search box, all you have to do is right-click on that, and it'll prompt you to create a custom search. So you can return to that search and even inject parameters into that search at any time. So let's say that you have your own ATS. Where's my Facebook friend? You have your own homegrown built ATS. Does it have a search box? You can turn that search box into a custom search on Opera. Can't do that with anywhere else. Just right-click and custom search. And then you can also do injection of parameters. So let's say that your ATS supports field searches, such as location. You can inject those parameters in there. That's very powerful. To me, that's the number one reason I still do it. You can inject parameters into custom search engines. So if you've built a CSE, you can actually do URL injection right into the CSE from Opera, which you can't do from anywhere else. Chrome is my second favorite because, again, it has more integration with a lot of other Google apps. So if I was to rank my browsers in order of my favorites, it would be Opera and Chrome. But the reality is that I actually have them both open at the same time. I'll have Opera open for all my sourcing, and I'll have Chrome open for all my browsing. Does that make sense? I'm on my Gmail, and I'm on my social networks and everything on Chrome, and I'm doing all the search stuff on Opera. So Opera is my sourcing browser, and Chrome is my everything else, shopping on eBay and stuff like that. Chrome, as you well know, has a huge library of extensions. I can't even get into. Some of them are just absolutely fabulous. But bottom line is, there's an extension in Chrome that pretty much can do just about everything you can imagine. Another thing that I really like is it's got a very easy-to-use incognito mode. This is something that I often run into. I want to go to a website and see the website without it recognizing that I'm a user. So, for example, if you ever do an external search on Google or Bing of LinkedIn profiles, and you click on a profile, and you have logged in on that session, it's going to go into your LinkedIn account. And LinkedIn is trying to actively prevent you from viewing people that are outside of your network. So it shows you a profile that says, this person's outside of your network, and you can't see them. Well, if you go back to the search results and open incognito, you see the full profile, because LinkedIn can't track you anymore. So they can't prevent you from opening the full profile. And there's many examples, that's just one of them, where you might want to use that. It also has a pretty cool session manager, which means you can actually be logged into 5 or 6 different websites with different accounts, all within the same browser. So you can be logged into your personal Gmail, your work Gmail, your personal Yahoo, and your work Yahoo, or whatever. Multiple accounts, all in the same window. It makes it easy. The problem that solves is the problem of having to log out and log in, log out and log in. You got to log out over here to go log in over there, log out over here, right? Some of you might share, for example, Facebook accounts or LinkedIn accounts. You can have multiple sessions, and the session manager allows you to have those all open at the same time. So in other words, tab 1 is your personal Facebook. Tab 2 is your company Facebook. 2 different accounts, 2 different sessions managed separately. Same thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn Recruiter and your LinkedIn Personal, right? And also it has a built-in Grease Monkey integration. So for those of you that want to brave writing some JavaScript macros, super easy to do because it's already got it built in. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't even bother with it. Just don't even go there. But if you are interested in finding out, let me know. But JavaScript is a bear. My second favorite, besides a browser, my second favorite app is Evernote. How many of you use Evernote? So I refer to Evernote as my brain. I don't function very well without it. It's on all of my devices. It's on my phones, on my tablets, on my PCs, on my Macs, everywhere. And it synchronizes across all of them. I actually have Evernote Pro, which is I pay for the premium version of it. What is Evernote? Evernote has a bunch of different features that are very useful for a sourcer. For example, if you take a picture of something with text, it recognizes the characters, and you can then search against the text in that picture. Think about that. How many uses does that have? Other things, it has the ability to drag and drop, so I can grab a page from a web browser session and drop it right into Evernote, and that becomes a document. So what I'll do, for example, is I'll keep folders in my Evernote for the recs or hiring managers or clients that I'm working on, and I drag stuff directly into it. I can also send it directly from a browser. There's an app you can get or an extension on Chrome that you can get that allows you to capture the whole page. You can take a screenshot of the page. You can extract the text. They also have this other add-on that makes it easy to read. So how many times do you go to these blogs nowadays where they're trying to get all fancy with the graphic design, and it's got this window, and you got to click on the next to see the next item, and the next one, and the next one? This simplifies that, so it puts it all in one page in plain text with no images. How cool is that? Works really well for, those kind of fluffy marketing blog type stuff. It also allows you to tag extensively. It has a huge tag library and a very robust built-in search. So you can actually pretty much tag any part of your process right within Evernote. You can create tags like, for example, submitted, or phone screened, or needs to be phone screened, or needs to be submitted. Anything that you can imagine that's a process you can create as a tag and just move things back and forth between the tags. And if something is completed, for example, needs phone screen, and you already phone screened them, you just remove the tag and type in a new one. Phone screened already, right? Very, very easy. You can create almost like a poor man's ATS out of just one instance of Evernote. And then the last thing is, if you do have Chrome, the web clipper searches, when you do Google, against your own content. So when you're doing a search on Google, whatever you type in will also search your Evernote database. Think of all the resumes that you saved in there. It's kind of like searching your own ATS in a way. Pretty cool, huh? No, not so cool. You guys already know this stuff? All right. I'll go faster then. If this, then that. Anybody know this? Raise your hand if you use if this, then that. Okay? So, computer science in 5 minutes or less. Basically, all computer science follows the same principle. If something, then something else. That's what programming is all about. If obstacle, turn left. If this, then that. They've taken that logic, simplified it to the point where you can pretty much do just about anything with a collection of what they call recipes. So, for example, you can connect your LinkedIn and your Evernote. If you tag in Evernote needs interview, then it schedules on calendar. If this, then that. Get it? If you check in on Foursquare, it adds to a spreadsheet. If you check in on Foursquare, it messages your spouse, right? Every time I check in at an airport, when I check into an airport and it's got an airport code, my wife receives a message, I landed safely. So she just checks her email and, oh, yep, Shally landed at this time, no problem. Because it's if this and that. If check in at airport, then send message to wife. You can schedule tweets. You can program tweets to be sent out at particular cadences, like every hour, every day, or at a specific time. You can buffer your posts, so if you have a bunch of ideas and you don't want to share all of these ideas all at the same time, you program them in if this and that. You can take content out of LinkedIn and put it on Facebook. Take content out of Facebook and put it on LinkedIn. Take content from Twitter and put it on Facebook or on LinkedIn or all three. If somebody tweets with this keyword, add them to a spreadsheet. Just think about that for a minute. Whoever tweets with this particular keyword, add them to a Google spreadsheet. Guess what that's called? Sourcing. Think about it. Your candidates are tweeting about some technology, and every time somebody uses that on Twitter, it's a pervasive or a saved search on Twitter, whoever sent that tweet is now added to a Google spreadsheet or an Evernote. Pretty amazing, right? If someone likes your page, they get an email. If someone retweets you, they get a thank you message. Do you understand where I'm going with this? The possibilities are limitless. If you're in a boring meeting, you get a phone call. If the phone rings right now, I would be shocked. So it'll dial out, for example, like it can make calls. You can actually call things in. You can call in text. You can have it call you. You can have it text you, or you can text commands into it. Pretty limitless. How often do you spend a lot of time, scratch that, how often do you waste a lot of time playing phone tennis trying to schedule an interview? Can you do tomorrow at 10:30? It's tomorrow at 11:30. Oh, oops, sorry, I didn't get that until just now. How about next Monday at 3? And then you reply back, well, no, Monday at 3 doesn't work. And then they reply back, well, then how about, you see where I'm going with this? Phone tennis. How often does that happen? Or email tennis, or whatever. The point is that we waste, as recruiters, we waste a lot of time scheduling in the whole back and forth process. So using online schedulers is a huge efficiency. There's a couple of different tools out there. I recently started playing with Assistant 2. Assistant 2 is brilliant, but it only does one thing. However, it does that one thing superbly. That one thing that it does is it sets up one-on-one meetings via email. So if I send you an email and I want to book some time with you, I just click on my Assistant 2 and enter in my calendar, and when you receive the email, it shows Monday, my availability, Tuesday, my availability, Wednesday, my availability, 2 to 4, 6 to 7, whatever. When you get it, all you have to do is click on one of those times, boom, booked. You can then reschedule if you want to or cancel, etc. But it only works one-on-one, meaning I have to send it to you, and it only works via email. If you want something a little bit more robust, you can use TimeTrade. TimeTrade works with hiring managers because you can set up multiple calendars. You can invite hiring managers to share certain blocks of time. So, for example, if you're trying to set up an interview for a hiring manager, ask them what block of time can you have to schedule appointments. Let's say they say, oh, well, I'm always available for interviews Fridays between 2 and 4. So you put that into your TimeTrade, and you can then book candidates for the hiring manager that go directly into their Outlook or Google Calendar. So when that time comes up, they get a reminder that says you have an interview with such and such a person. They'll call you, you call them, whatever. You can actually set that up for multiple hiring managers. And then there's also Schedule 1, which if you're familiar with TungleMe kind of, I guess, dissolved, or I don't know exactly, went out of business or whatever it was. Schedule 1 is probably one of the best replacements for, if not the best replacement for TungleMe, which is sharing your calendar. So you can put your calendar online, and it only shows the windows when you're available. It doesn't show your private, it doesn't show you have a doctor's appointment or picking up the kids from school or taking the dog to the vet. It doesn't show that. It just shows available. So somebody could book themselves on your calendar. So instead of having to send you, say, with Assistant 2, I send you an email, here's my availability, you click. With this one, I send you the calendar, and you look at my whole calendar, all of it, and you pick a time. You can also create rules. For example, with time trading with Schedule 1, never book 2 appointments back to back. So don't have it at 11 o'clock and at 12 o'clock. Always give a half-hour break between the two. So if somebody books 11, 12 becomes unavailable. You can book them 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, etc. 90 minutes, full day, whatever you want. Reportive, unfortunately, is still limited to Google accounts. So Google Apps for Business or Gmail. If you don't have Google, it's not really going to help you very much. But what's really nice about this as a Chrome extension, or even if you don't use Chrome, even if you use another browser, when you're inside of Gmail, it pops up on the right-hand side and it shows you a bunch of information about that candidate. What's really important about this is if you sent an email to somebody that's a potential candidate and they reply back and all you have from them is their email address, now you have their Facebook, their Twitter, their LinkedIn profile, their Google+, their Quora account, their phone number, whatever is available online. It sort of spiders content from social media and collates that into one image. It'll also show recent tweets by that person. So imagine you send an email to a candidate with Assistant 2, hey, I'd like to talk to you next week. Please pick a time. They click on Monday or whatever, right? Then you get an email back, and as soon as you get that email, up comes all of this information. It's now Monday when you call them up and you go, oh, hey, I saw your Twitter post about your cat. Really cute. Lols. Establish rapport. Be able to build a relationship with a candidate without having to go outside of your regular process and go look them up, find their Twitter account. It's all right there for you. Up until recently, you could actually write notes on people, keep like a little diary on them. Now they've taken that away, so unfortunately I'm telling you about your cake and you can't eat it. But still, you have the information in Gmail. Now if you don't use Gmail, if you use Outlook, you can try a tool called Zobni, which is inbox spelled backwards, I-N-B-O-X. That's if you don't have Google Apps or Gmail and you only have Outlook. Raise your hand if you use Outlook. Okay? How about if you use Gmail? Okay? How about if you use something else? If you don't raise your hand now, Lotus Notes? Really? Oh my God. Sorry. I don't know if Zobni works on Lotus Notes. But you might want to tell your management to, join the modern age. Macros, I mentioned. What are macros? Macros are a way of recording a series of activities. So if it's a repetitive task, like, for example, formatting a document, highlight text, apply a font size, etc., you can do that as a macro. You can tell the computer to always do the same steps. First, highlight all text. Then, set the font to this. Then, set the size to this, etc. That's a very simple way of doing it. The reason I start with that example is because oftentimes I get resumes that are pretty, but hard to read, so I reformat them. And the way I do that is with a macro. I click a button, instantly done in a whole new format, easy to read, with all the spaces in all the right places and everything. It's a recorded macro. But there's a lot of things that you have that you repeat day in and day out, even throughout the day, that you can program as a macro. For example, copy job, post. Here's another one. Responses to candidates. So you send an email to the candidate, and they say, sure, I'd be interested. Can you tell me more? You have auto text that goes back that has all the information that you send all the candidates. You don't have to go in somewhere and rewrite it or copy and paste it from a Word document. It's just a macro. You do, Control-Shift-LZ, and that rec gets pasted in there. And you can have Control-Shift-LZ1 for the other rec and Control-Shift-LZ2 for the other one, etc. You can include your signature file. You can include standard, for example, directions to the interview, dress code suggestions. They dress casual. They dress business. Hiring manager tips. This particular hiring manager likes these kinds of questions, doesn't like these kinds of questions. These are all auto text ideas that you can put in there. Anything that basically bores you, that you do repetitively, can probably be automated with a macro. Macros are pretty easy. The reason I discovered macros was because I was diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome, really, 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 really bad carpal tunnel syndrome, which is a pinched nerve in the wrist. And it's something that just, it's a genetic thing, and after a while it just starts to deteriorate, and you lose feeling in your fingers. I thought it was because I was using the computer too much. But when I went to see the doctor said, got nothing to do with computer use. Some people get it, some people don't. Some people are, mechanics and work on gears all their whole lives and never get it. Other people, only work on gears one day and they get it. So it's just one of those things. But I wasn't able to do a lot of the same kind of typing. I didn't have the motion. So I discovered these recorded activities. I put together a list of a couple of them. Macro Tool Works has a free edition, so you can try it. But if you like it, it's only $40 for life. Kind of like Evernote, once you pay for it, you own it. But they do have a free edition. You can do text replacement. So as you're typing, for example, you're in the middle of typing an email to a candidate, and you type in the word signature. It'll automatically replace with your signature. So it uses the word signature as the macro, text replacement. Every time you type LMNOP, it'll put in whatever that macro is. It also allows you to extend programs like clipboards. How often do you copy and paste, copy a page, paste it, come back and copy another page, paste it, come back and copy another one, paste it, and you have to do this 10 times? What if you could do copy, 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 paste? Did you know you could do that? It allows you to copy basically into a file, and every copy is a separate item on that file, and then you can paste all the things that you copied. Or you can just paste the first one or the second one. So you can organize your copy pasting. You can schedule items. Like every 3 hours, check email. Every 3 hours, remind me to get up and stretch. Every 3 hours, harass my candidates. Every 3 hours, harass my hiring managers. If you have characters, special characters that you use with different languages, that you normally have to look up into systems to use that character, you can map them as well. So a specific character that might have, might not be the kind of, it's not on your keyboard. You have to go into Systems Tools to get it. You can do that as well. There's AutoHotkey and RocketDock as well that are free applications. I recommend Macro Tool Works. It's the one that I use, but I also believe in providing alternatives. So you may not like Macro Tool Works. You can also try AutoHotkey and RocketDock. I am not sure, I didn't think of asking this before I put this together, if AutoHotkey and RocketDock have Mac versions. So, then there's also macros.com. So it's another alternative. So here's the list of them. Oh, and make use of. Sorry, here's all 5 of them. And coming up, I have a list of ideas. Format resumes. Automate replies. Fill out forms. You know how you have to enter in data into the ATS to create a record, or the CRM to create a record? You can have that automated. So that every time that form comes up, it's asking for you to drop down from a list and choose active candidate, or choose your name from a list assigned to, or the recruiter, or whatever, all those different drop downs you have to do. There's 12 of them, and you got to drop all of them down and type stuff in and put in the rec number. All of that can be done with a macro. Auto text, as we talked about, launching programs. Every time I open LinkedIn, also open Evernote, for example. Kind of like if this, then that. Multi-copy and paste, we already talked about that. Hotkeys. This is one of my favorites. Click on a number and it rings your phone. It does a call out. Have you ever seen that? Call out feature. So it activates a call out feature that calls your phone. You pick up and the line is connected. So you don't have to dial. That way you can just dial from your machine, which saves you the trouble of having to punch in the numbers. This is especially useful if you have to use account codes or international dialing codes and you have long digits. You can program it so that it always dials 0117583342, whatever your code is, then wait, pause, then dial the number. So you don't have to do it yourself. It's not an auto dialer. It's just a macro for dialing. Reminders. Copying emails. Whenever I send an email to a candidate, I can have a little code that will file that email in the Evernote file for that particular rec. So it copies that email because it's related to that candidate. Or hiring manager. Every time I send an email to a hiring manager, it goes in and grabs a copy of it and puts it into Evernote so that I have a record outside of the email system. Just some ideas. How are we doing? Overloaded yet? What? Want some more? You want some more? Really? All right. Raise your hand if you use a mobile phone. Oh, come on! Okay, there we go. If you've ever wanted to make your own mobile app, you can with a website called Conduit. Have you ever seen this? Conduit's pretty cool. It allows you to make your own apps. It literally is a mobile app, which can be as simple as just literally a link to your website, or it can have features that you build in. It's kind of like mobile apps for dummies. Mobile apps for people who can't program. A couple of apps that I recommend, the LinkedIn app and the People app, and Rapid Search. Rapid Search has a screen that on one screen will open your same search on Google, Ask, and Bing. So it does a 3-time search. Whatever you type in, it'll open the results on all three of them from one screen. It's useful because doing that from a mobile phone would mean a lot of copying and pasting and opening windows and stuff like that. It's kind of a shortcut. You can do this on your computer, obviously, very easily, but it's not so easy to do on the phone. Are you familiar with Bleko? Bleko? Bleko has a pretty interesting search engine that's said to be spam-free. Whether that's really true or not, I don't know. But what's cool about it is they have they have an app called Isaac, I-Z-I-K, that is Bleko for your mobile. Interestingly enough, I find myself using this app a lot more than using Google because the last thing I want to get on Google results on my mobile are ads. I'm paying for data. I just feel like it's kind of a waste. I don't know if you have to pay for data. Do you pay for it when you're browsing the internet from your phone? You have to have so you're paying for data and you're seeing ads. You're kind of paying to see ads. I don't like that. Sugarcodeapps.com has a pretty interesting mobile phone Boolean cheat sheet you can download. 411 Portal has a people lookup, so if you ever want to find a phone number, and actually just discovered today, thanks to Dilip, one of my favorite sourcing websites, Truecaller, actually has a mobile app too. So I didn't know that, or I guess I just never asked about it. So there's a Truecaller mobile app. You can punch in any number and it'll give you the caller ID and stuff like that, similar to that. Hoover's Near Here will actually find people nearby based on Hoover's data, which is kind of neat. And free SMS is a way to send free text messages. So we were talking about texting in one of the lab sessions earlier. This is kind of a free text messaging service. Mobile sites. If you want to create a very quick and easy mobile site, you can do that for free with Tumblr and Weebly. Both of them have pretty much instant site designs with hundreds of, maybe even thousands of templates. So if you want to create a mobile-ready site, it works both as, of course, a computer-browsed site and a mobile site. The websites have code that detect the browser. So if somebody browses to that website with an iPad, it serves the iPad format as opposed to the computer website format. If they're using an Android, it serves that shape. So it's basically adaptive to whatever the user is browsing. So that's Tumblr and Weebly. If you want to know what your website looks like on a mobile phone, go to emulator.mtld.mobi, and it'll show you. You pick a device, say Android or Samsung Galaxy or whatever, and it'll show you what your website looks like on a mobile phone. It's absolutely horrible. Sometimes, I do that sometimes with client websites, and it comes up and it's like, oh man, just so wrong. It's a very good usability test to see if the website where you're posting your jobs is actually accessible. Well, it's accessible, but is it functional on mobile? Does it work on mobile? You can create your own mobile website as well with Get Share Square, and there's a mobile applicant tracking system free from smartrecruiters.com. It's kind of like a light ATS for mobile phones. So you literally could search, track your candidates, and create a website without ever having a computer. Pretty cool, huh? All from just your mobile phone. A couple of other things I want to highlight. Swoop Talent, similar to Talent Bin and Dice Open Web, if you're familiar with those, but it functions a different way, and it also has the added feature of searching your ATS. So imagine if you could do Talent Bin and Dice Open Web on your ATS. The interesting thing about that is if the resume is already in your system, it grabs the email address, goes out and gets their GitHub profile, their Twitter profile, kind of like Reportive for Gmail, but inside of your ATS. That, to me, is a killer feature. It allows me to get updated information on out-of-date candidates. Because the candidates in your ATS might be a year or two old. Well, hopefully they're older than that, but I mean the resumes. The candidates are, really? Come on. If the resumes are a couple of years old, it might be out of date, but with this kind of system, it'll update the information so you can get their current LinkedIn profile and their current. It also has some posting features, but posting is not going to be out of this world. It's going to be just as good or just as bad as posting everywhere else. Posting is really kind of up to you. If you post to the right websites, you'll get results. If you post the right content, you'll get results. If you post the wrong content to the right websites, no results. So it doesn't matter really what you use, but it does have that built in. And I think it's about $500 per seat per month, but it has the ability to log into a bunch of sources and your own ATS. Here, anybody use Hootsuite? No? I use it a lot. I'm also paying for the professional version. This is a lot. I use it mostly for tracking keywords so that I can constantly do searches on certain, when I'm sourcing, for example, I can see the results from, it doesn't just do Twitter, it also does Facebook, it does LinkedIn, it has YouTube, Vimeo, there's a bunch of them, Foursquare. So I can do pervasive searches that way. And I can also follow people in an automated way so that it's not automated in the sense that it follows everybody, but I can open up everybody who's used this keyword, follow them all, right? And that allows me to build an account very quickly. Like when I built the Twitter account for Barata Sourcing, I used Hootsuite, and within 24 hours, I had 133 followers. Because I basically followed everybody that had keywords related to sourcing talent acquisition in India, and I followed 300 people, and about 130 of them followed me back. So it's kind of like a fast way of getting to manage your Twitter account. You might be familiar with Buffer. Buffer's kind of a mini version of that. Hootsuite has more apps. Like you can do Vimeo and Foursquare. I don't think you can do Foursquare with Buffer. Can you do Foursquare with Buffer? I don't think so. Facebook messaging app, Foca, might cost some money soon, but right now it doesn't. So if you send Facebook messages, you guys, I was having dinner last night, and a pop-up came up that said that I can now send a text message to anybody on Facebook Messenger, even if I'm not connected to them. It was like a new feature. It just came up. And I hadn't seen that before. So basically what it's saying is I can text to their mobile phone through Facebook. Doesn't mean I have the mobile phone number. But what they're claiming is that it'll send the message to their mobile phone if they are on Facebook. Has anybody else gotten that message? No? I tried it last night, and I think it might be because of the hotel connection. I don't know if it worked or not, so I'd be curious to find out if that's for real or not. Supposedly, you can now send a text message through Facebook to a Facebook user that goes to their mobile phone, not to their Facebook account, but to their mobile phone. You don't know the number, but it does deliver the message. Yeah? You tried it? And it is for real? That's pretty cool. Yeah, with the Messenger app. Okay, so here it is. As of last night, you can use the Messenger app and send a text message to someone you don't know on Facebook, even if you're not connected to them. Mine or theirs? Sorry, it's two people at the same time. I can't. Yeah? In your Facebook. But we don't need to be connected. Right. So obviously, if I'm trying to message someone who doesn't have a mobile phone number, it's not going to be delivered to their mobile phone because they don't have a mobile phone number. I get that. But if they have a mobile phone and I'm not connected to them, it'll deliver the message, and that's not something we could do before. I'm not talking about Facebook messages. I'm talking about texts. It's pretty cool. Were you going to add to that or no? Yeah. Yeah, I got that. That makes sense. So in other words, for me to call you, I have to know your number. Right. So if you don't want me to call you, you don't give me your number. I get it. Seriously, we're still beating this dead horse? It's new as of last night, so check it out. Or don't. Simply Measured is a pretty neat ROI website. It's expensive, but if you're concerned with getting ROI for your social media, this is more for those of you trying to build a social recruiting department or group, not an individual user. This is more for the managers. But it allows you to measure the reach that your campaigns are having in a fairly accurate way. It's one of the biggest challenges with social media is ROI. You could spend a lot of hours developing a social media campaign, and unless somebody applies for the job and says they came from Twitter, you kind of don't know. It's not very easy to track. Google Analytics is dependent on JavaScript, and even though there's only 10% of the population that don't use JavaScript, there's still other things that interfere with that. So it's possible that even your Google Analytics don't tell you the full story. If you ever opened your analytics up and it says direct access 7,000 source unknown, that's what's happening. And what that means is you can't tell your boss where your social media dollars went. But something like this, Simply Measured, makes it a little bit easier to do that. So again, if you're concerned with demonstrating tangible ROI on social media spend, this is a good tool for you. If that's not an issue and you're just tweeting and Facebooking as a matter of your regular course and you're not really trying to tie ROI dollars to it, you can skip this one. Candidates Direct is one of those power browsers that we talked about. This one in particular allows you to search LinkedIn profiles externally. So the nice thing about it is you can use fields such as their location and keywords and job titles and do external LinkedIn searches. I don't know if you're aware of this, but about 40% of the population on LinkedIn, and this number is growing, has opted out of being visible inside of LinkedIn search results. So that means it doesn't matter what kind of account you have, even if you have a recruiter account, you will not find them because they have opted out. So if you found them, LinkedIn would be violating their privacy, which according to the user agreement, it can't. So a good portion of the profiles on LinkedIn are not findable within LinkedIn. But those very same people who opted out of being found inside of LinkedIn search results don't know how to go into privacy settings to change it so that their profile isn't publicly listed. So as a result, you can find their public profile as long as you're not using LinkedIn. And this is a tool that allows you to do that in a power way. The nice thing about this, so finding LinkedIn profiles on Google is not a big deal. Everybody can do that. However, putting them into a spreadsheet and getting the email address and phone number, pretty useful, right? That's where this comes in. So you can find them one at a time, or you can use this and find them by the hundreds with email addresses and phone numbers. Mind you, what it does is, if it can get an email address that is on the profile, it shows up as green. If it's an email address that is guessed using that linksme that I showed you before, it's blue. And if it's a estimate, it's a guess, it's red. So green means verified, blue means probably a good guess, red means we really don't know. But it might work. However, it's better than not having one, right? So you might work 50% of the time, but that's 50% more than you had before. RSS is another automation tool that I like to use. What this does is it allows me to save my searches so that new results get sent to me. So if you build a search on Google, and it's a search that works really well, at some point you'll have exhausted all of the results. You do a search, you get 200 results, you'll have mined through all 200 of them. You can then set that search up as an RSS feed so that if any new content comes up against that search, it's delivered to your RSS reader directly. The advantage that this has is if you have dozens of RSS searches that have been set up for the common profiles that you usually search for, all you have to do is open your RSS reader, and if there's any new unread items, that means you have new candidates. If you open your RSS reader and there's no new unread items, you've done your sourcing for the day. Assuming you set up your searches correctly, right? So that's the biggest advantage to RSS readers. Unfortunately, this reader.google.com, they just killed it, but there's still quite a few out there. There's a built-in one in Chrome, there's a built-in one in Firefox, there's a built-in one in Opera, and there's a number of, NetVibes, for example. What do you guys use? What RSS readers do you guys use? Because Google Reader's dead. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, so there you go. So there's alternatives. I just, when Google Reader died, I just migrated to my browser. Because again, remember, Opera synchronizes across all devices. So even if it's downloading on my work computer, it still shows up on my phone because it's all cloud-based. Alerts are a little bit different. Alerts are actually emails rather than RSS messages. In order to set up an alert, you first have to do a search that's successful, and then program it with Google, just google.com/alerts. You paste in the search. I highly advise you to test it extensively before you set up an alert. Let me tell you what the problem is if you don't do that. If you think that you're smarter than you are, and you do a search that you think is going to be brilliant, and all of a sudden you start getting thousands of alerts a day, it can be pretty messy to clean up. So I recommend that you test the search on Google and make sure that you have a nice, clean set of results. And then the other thing that I'll tell you is Google assumes that all of the results that existed at the time that you set the alert, you've already seen. So it won't send you an alert on stuff that was already on that results page. It'll only send you alerts on new results that it finds. So don't program an alert and expect to get an email with all of the results that you saw in the search. None of those will be emailed to you, only new ones. The nice thing about this, though, is kind of like with RSS feeds, you can set up hundreds of alerts and literally have Google email you anytime a new resume is found online from the kind of candidate that you're constantly recruiting. By the way, the same thing can be done with LinkedIn profiles, Zing profiles, Viadeo profiles, Facebook pages, Twitter pages. You get where I'm going with this? Yeah? Yeah. Automate your sourcing. Getting a lot of glazed over looks. Is this the lunch sleepiness, or am I boring you to death? I certainly don't want to put you to sleep. I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. Well, you can have the alerts go directly into an Evernote inbox. You can have the alerts coming into Gmail, and you can set an if this, then that. that puts it out of, when it's an alert, it comes into Gmail and it goes into Google Sheet, for example. So yeah, there's a dozen ways I can think of doing that. So the results go right into a spreadsheet. Not only that, you can actually have the results go right into a spreadsheet and then have that spreadsheet be programmed if this then that to do another action. Like, for example, send them an email. Huh? Sorry, I'm just too far. With if this then that? Yeah, that's one way. So the if this and that app, if email comes in from Google Alerts, then take results, parse into Google Sheet. Or another way is the email that you use to send the alert to, rather than being masood@yourcompany.com, is your Evernote email. And then that result gets sent into Evernote, and you tell Evernote everything that comes in from that email address gets tagged as whatever. So you can do it that way. And I can think of a few other ways as well. Yeah. Hand? Oh, no, camera. Sorry. Is it a hand or a camera? Any other questions about that? Yeah, if you have the right keywords. Yeah. So whatever you can do with keywords, you can do. City names, area codes, zip codes. You can do Google Maps, location-based searches. You can do Foursquare types of searches. Check-ins, right? So you can search Google for Foursquare check-ins because they get published publicly. If they get, they don't always, but it's a setting. If they get published, you could do that. So you could do location-based that way. You could do Twitter, pervasive Twitter searches using the near command, near colon and then the address, or the postal code, or the city name, or whatever, and that's also geographic-based. Or just get really smart about using keywords. Usually, city names and area codes works really well. Does that make sense? Sorry. If you're telling Google to only bring you back results that have a keyword, why would the page not have that keyword? Oh. www.linkedin.com. Site : www.linkedin.com. That's US only. If you do www.in.linkedin.com, that's India only. www.pl.com, LinkedIn.com is Poland only. But well, it depends. On LinkedIn, you search that way. If you set up an alert for LinkedIn, set up a different alert for Viadeo using their pattern. Make sense? You set up an alert for Twitter using the near command. You set up an alert for LinkedIn using the greater Atlanta area. You set up an alert for Viadeo using the country, the city, country thing. They all have their own sort of thing. So these would be separate alerts. Not one alert that does all of them, but 12 alerts that do all of it. And they all go to the same inbox or Evernote inbox or whatever. Make sense? Yeah? Okay. Any more? Once in a while, you're going to come across new technology. Change is inevitable, except from vending machines. Okay, that's one of my best ones. You guys really just... Really? Is it my timing? What? What is it? This is my timing. Okay, all right. You're going to come across technology that you are going to be curious about, and you're wondering whether or not it's worth investing your time. Your time is valuable. Do you really want to spend 200 hours trying to figure out how to use the new social network only to find out that your candidates aren't there? Obviously, the answer is no, but how do you figure out before you find out whether your candidates are actually there, or before your candidates start going there, whether or not it's going to be a good technology? Before you start spending time on a new tool or automation, here's some questions that I want you to ask. Can you verify the claims? So if they say something like, for example, a certain company that shall go nameless that claims that you can find everybody on its network if you buy a specific kind of account, and it turns out that 40% of the population isn't findable using that same account, maybe you should verify that before you spend the amount of money that it costs to get that account. Follow what I'm saying? Verify the claim first. A lot of times the claims are made a little bit grossly exaggerated. Who else like you uses it? What other companies like you use them already? Obviously, you don't want to have too many companies because then there's no competitive advantage. But if you can't find a single other company that uses that tool, hint, right? What do people that are already using it have to say about that? Email them. Hey, I noticed that you use Evernote. How do you feel about it? Is it worth it? Should I learn how to use it or not? Email pundits like me. Email people that are speaking at this event and ask the question, do you use it? Have you heard of it? What do you think about this? I get those kinds of emails all the time. People will send me, sometimes they're sending me an app or something because they are trying to return the favor and like, hey, maybe you haven't seen this. But oftentimes it's hey, what do you think about this tool? Should I even bother with it? Right? So send it to the people that you've met here today and ask the question. So you're industry experts if you feel. What is it going to take for you to support using that tool? That's a big question. Sometimes we end up biting off more than we can chew when it comes to technology. We end up buying into a technology that then costs a lot more to actually implement than the price that we paid for the technology. Kind of like buying a $7 shoe that requires $50 in modifications before you can wear it. Sure, it was a cheap shoe, but by the time you're done, you paid $57. So sometimes that happens. In order to make it fit into your process in your organization, you end up spending more time and energy. So before you get any further on that tool, evaluate whether or not it fits with your current processes. Do they help you? Is support available? Customer service, right? If you ask them a question, one of the things I do, I use Drupal a lot. I use Drupal for my website. When I'm looking at a new module, the first thing that I look at is the support queue. And that means on Drupal.org, it shows how many issues are outstanding that haven't been responded to by the developer of that app. I'm looking for a short cycle time because if I see that people are asking questions and it's days before they're getting a response, then when I have a problem, that's what it's going to look like. But if I see that they respond to people on average of every 6 hours, so most questions are only in queue for 6 hours or 12 hours, I can live with that. If there's a response time, I'm more likely to adopt that technology because I know that when I run into a problem, I can simply post a question on their forum. But if it's going to take weeks to get back to me, Do you have any audit or regulatory requirements that you have to watch out for? Sarbanes-Oxley, ISO 9000, etc. In the US, we have OFCCP. Your customers might have OFCCP guidelines that they have to adhere to. If you don't do it now, are you going to need something like it later? Or, another way to ask it, how long can you wait before you adopt it? If you wait too long, will it no longer be a competitive advantage? Or can you wait for it to mature a little bit before you actually sink your teeth into it? Unless you happen to make a living doing research, it's not very productive to be tracking 250 social networks. But because that's what I do for a living, I can do that. So let me do that for you. Let me track 250 social networks so you don't have to. Because I guarantee you, out of those 250, probably 240 are not going to be around in a few years. But I have to track it because that's what I do. So don't invest the time on this unless you really feel like it's going to work for you. So hopefully these questions will help you in asking whether or not that tool is going to be useful. I don't know if we have a minute or two left. If we do, for questions, do we? Or what happened to my timekeeper? Do we have time for questions or not? We do? All right. Fire away. Not all at once, please. Okay, thank you very much. Don't be shy. Do you have any questions? Any tools that... Oh, sorry. Yes, the major advantage that Swoop has over all the other competitors is that Swoop can search your ATS. It does all the other things the other competitors do, plus it searches your ATS. So yeah, it searches GitHub and Meetup and LinkedIn and Twitter and all that other stuff. The question is, won't LinkedIn's privacy laws prevent Swoop from searching? How? But they publish it to Google. Well, if you pay for a LinkedIn account, Swoop will log into your LinkedIn account that you pay for. So if you don't have an account, it's public profiles. If you have an account, you use yours. Either way, you're not violating. If it's public, then it's public. If it's your account, then it's your account. So, yeah. Do you have a LinkedIn account? Then you plug that in and you search with that. It also searches public profiles as well. Because, like I said, 40% of the profiles on LinkedIn are not searchable inside of LinkedIn. So you actually are at a disadvantage searching inside of LinkedIn, unfortunately. But no, you're not violating any privacy that way. No. What would your concern be? Break into? The word break into involves committing a crime. No. Have them talk to me. That doesn't make any sense. Because then Google would be the biggest offender. Google caches all the data. How do you think Google serves results in 0.00391 seconds? You think they're actually fetching the results real time? Mm-hmm. If you're logged in to your account, then you're searching your account. Why would you not be allowed to search your own account? Right? You're using your own account. Yeah, so it's no vendor is going to allow you to log into LinkedIn without having an account. So, if you have an account, then you're using your own account. I think what you might be looking at is if your request was to download all of the profiles and put them into a separate database, that might have been what they objected to. But why do you need to do that when the database already exists? It's called LinkedIn. So you don't need to copy LinkedIn's data and put it into your database because it's already there. So all you need to do is be able to refer to it, right? What Swoop does in a lot of these other companies is they just put a placeholder to that. So when Swoop brings back a result, it's not downloading the LinkedIn profile, it's showing you the live version of that profile, real time. That's why it's not a violation. If that profile was not on LinkedIn anymore, let's say somebody took it down, it wouldn't show up on the Swoop results. Okay. There is no legal issue. There isn't. Whoever's telling you that doesn't know what they're talking about. There's no legal issue with what I am explaining right now. If there was, Google would be in a lot of trouble. Yeah, so as long as you're logging in with your own account. The same thing with Monster. You can log into Monster and download resumes, but you do have to pay for a certain amount of views. Like, I don't know if it's 600 views or something like that. I don't know if that number changed. So if you run out of views, you end up paying for the additional views. But some tools allow you to keep a record of the ones you've already seen. So when those come up against your search results, it doesn't download new views, it uses the old views. So that's how they get around that. That way you don't have to pay for another 600 views or whatever that number is. So that's similar. It's similar in the same kind of vein. Any other questions? Yeah. Candidates Direct. This one? Candidates Direct. What's your question? Yeah. As far as I know, unless they're experimenting with other stuff, yeah. Only LinkedIn profiles, yeah. You can use a lot of other tools for that, but yeah. Right. I mean, Swoop does Meetup and GitHub and all that other stuff, but remember, Candidates Direct is putting the LinkedIn profiles, email addresses, and phone numbers, which Swoop doesn't do. Swoop will try to find an email, but if it doesn't find one, it doesn't guess. Candidates Direct is kind of guessing, which, mind you, isn't always accurate, but hey, I'll take a guess over not knowing anything. Maybe is better than no. Any other questions? Yes. It can be if you don't have any tracking mechanism. Mm-hmm. Was that a question? Oh, okay. I agree with what he said. Any other suggestions, comments, additions, questions? All right. Well, complaints go to me, and praise goes to the Salt March team, please. If you have any problems with anything I said, bring it to me directly. Don't go bitching to them about it. Otherwise, I'll see you around. Enjoy the rest of your conference. Oh, we got one more question. Oh, okay. Recruitment. So say that again. Recruitin.com, .net, and the other one? resumegrabber.com. Okay. All right. No. Nope. Sorry. All right. Dismissed. Enjoy. Take care.